Hey class admins, this is for you and advanced administrators. This video is about adding options to the standard pre-existing fields in class, and there's a separate video if you're interested in managing custom fields and adding options and things to those. So by standard fields, I mean when you say look at a client, you can see all these kind of standard ones that are already in there. And a good example, say, is country of birth and a whole bunch of options and things like that. Now there's things you don't want to add options to, like country of birth, for example. In fact, you can't, because we're going to be managing them based on Australian Bureau of Statistics standards. But a lot of those other things you can add to. And over here, we've got services. Keep in mind what fields you see here are dependent on which service type it is, because some are hidden or added depending on each service type. But if we wanted to add, say, a drop down, here's an example: client in custody status, yes, no, unknown. We might have reason to add something there. So let's take a look how. The way we do it is by system settings and types and categories. And the other way to look for things, if you're not sure, because it could be a custom field, is you could check out the customize menu. That's where we handle custom fields from. But in our case, we know that client and custody status is type and category, so I'm going to click on it. First, we need to find that field. So a quick way to look is just do a quick search. I'm going to do Command F in my Mac, and you can do Control F if you want to do it in a Windows machine. And up pops this little thing, so I can type in, say, what the field title was or the main keyword, do a little search, and it comes up here. In this case, it's probably slightly misnamed in custody status. The full title was client in custody status. So there's obvious reasons why they've just dropped that word, but might mean you can't quite find it in alphabetical order. So do a quick search and it'll save you time. So now all we do is click on that, and this is where the real action happens. If your permissions are right, you can see a bunch of things that we can do here. Now, what we have here are the three options that they can actually be hidden from here, again, with the right permissions, but not always. Sometimes that is unable to be hidden. And also you want to be careful with that and make sure you're not accidentally hiding, say, a national data standards option that people might need from time to time. But of course, the center admins will know what you need to do in that regard. We've also got another option that is already hidden, and I could actually open that one up because it's clickable here on the left. Essentially, that means someone else has created that before us. But we'll park that for now, and we're going to do a new one freshly. And here we go. So I'm going to click on New, and we need a parent. Now, in this field, it's fairly easy because there's only 3 parents that are there, the top level options. Now, part of this is about knowing how parents work and the codes and such. The best video for that is Understanding Problem Types, where I talk about the codes and how they all work and parenting works in a bit more detail. It all came from CILSIS, but essentially the parents are the things that have been agreed to by the national data standards or what was in CILSIS before at the state or federal level. And you need to parent to that because that's what's reportable, and your code essentially slots in underneath it, or your option with a code, if there is a code. Some don't actually even need codes, some options, but I'll get to that. So no, unknown, and yes are the 3 standard ones here. We're going to map to yes. And that means essentially at the state and national level, your new option will just be reported as yes. But what we want to do maybe is just do yes and on remand, meaning in this case that the person currently is on remand, they're technically in custody, but there's a more detailed reason why. So I'm going to leave that. In this case, I can tell you we don't need a code because there aren't codes displayed on this one. Again, look at the other video for details there. Now, because this is a new option, we actually could set the new one to default. Generally, you probably wouldn't want to do that. Occasionally, you would. So you can do that here. So I'm going to save that, and we can now close it, and we can see now that we've got our new one up here. We could hide it, etc. So you can't at the admin level actually delete these, so you don't want to make mistakes. You want to try and make sure that you've got it right. If you do make a boo-boo, you can just hide it, and down the line we can deal with it. So that's all there is there. There's also potential for display order, but again, only in some particular types of fields. Some fields are set, and in this case it would be yes, no, I think at the top. Others are alphabetical order for obvious reasons because they're easy to find, and some might be set, say for languages, they might be set by the ABS codes, and their codes are ordered by sort of logic of kind of areas. So you kind of have Asia Pacific and say Europe and things like that. So it's not always easy to understand how that's going to work, but where you can display order, in other words, it's not being set in any highly unusual way, you would be able to place, for example, your new option at the top and even set the default. So we can now go back here to our option. I'll have to close that and reopen it. So it's got a chance to refresh. We're going to go over to the service, and now our new option is there to be used. But as I mentioned, it'll simply be a yes, but for your purposes, you can see in more detail that it's a yes on remand, and that's how they work. So I've shown you how to hide and unhide. I've shown you how to set defaults, which at the moment, unfortunately, only work if you do create a new field. We're getting that fixed, so you'll be able to set all these ones yourself. The existing one, for example, that's all I've got. So I'm going to leave it there.